In March I got the Patrones magazine and I made an Halter top and a dress. And one of the subscribers in my Spanish channel, Paloma Confecciones, told me that it would look cute, the combination of them two patterns together. So I have two pieces of material I wanted to use together, so that's what I'm going to do. And of course, comment down below if this is something you usually do, if combining patterns is something you like doing. For me, it's the first time I do it following magazine patterns. I've done it before with my own patterns, following my block of measurements. Of course, when combining patterns, you have to take into account all the different changes you have to make in order to create your new one, so they adapt themselves to each other. So one thing I have in mind is that the top, of course, goes down to the hip line, but because I want to create a dress and I usually wear dresses with belts, I can't have the belt and then another seam underneath, because if it was the same material it wouldn't matter, but it's going to be different patterns, different prints, so I need to shorten it so it doesn't look weird to the eye. Another thing is that the top really cuts on the armhole area and I don't really like it. It creates these bun bits and it's something personal, but I don't like them. So in order to avoid that, a subscriber from the Spanish channel, Melinda, told me that maybe it's because the top wasn't supposed to have an elastic band on the front. I think I did it right, but maybe, I don't know, you know, instructions. So I'm going to get rid of the elastic and it won't have any there. And it won't have any bias tape all around either. I'm just going to double hem it and that's it. Another thing I'm not going to add is a second panel on the back. I don't know why the dress on the front has a whole panel down to the knees, but then on the back it has two. It makes no sense. But because I'm going to use two different materials, of course, I'm going to do the same as in the front. So it won't have a second panel on the back. It will be only one.
I mean, it will be two because it has the top, but the skirt won't have two.
And to make the new patterns, I'm not going to use any more tissue paper, but I'm not going to cut the ones I have already made either. I'm just going to trace with paper, with pencil, and fold what I need to change. And then I write down what it is, those changes, but I'm not going to create new stuff. When I saw these two fabrics at my local store, I fell in love, but I couldn't decide which one to get. So I got 1 meter of each, with the purpose of combining them together. It's not going to be on the discreet side, this dress, but it doesn't really matter. So it's I got 1 meter each, and it's polyester, and it stretches the same way both sides, grain and cross grain. So that's good. It's going to be really good to sew, I think, and it's going to be spectacular. We're going to trace and cut our patterns in the different fabrics and then sew right sides together the front panels and the back panels, adding a top stitch, so we can then sew the dress along the side seams and add some double top stitch, which will include the skirt slits. Then hem the bottom with a double hem and add some binding to the armholes and back, as well as some elastic band. And to finish it, we're going to make the tie that goes round the neck, as well as the ring that holds it in place. To modify my pattern, what I did was to take off the 10 centimeters I wanted, and because the tissue paper is really thin, it can even adopt these curves, so it's not a problem. And what I did is that to keep tracing, I placed the next panel on top to see how it will look and where to reach. and then just again folding and giving it more shape, a different shape, because it was bigger. And the same with the back panels. And now let's start cutting. Pink, blue, pink, and the little bottom bit in blue as well. And I'm going to start with the pink because nothing in particular, no reason at all. So this is my front of the dress, and the back I have it sewn as well, and I managed to, at some stages in some of the panels, match the pattern. I couldn't with everything because I didn't have enough material, and because this fabric, this is polyester, it doesn't settle very well. The seams look a bit wonky, so I'm going to top stitch it. You can top stitch to make it more stable, or you can top stitch just because you like another seam on top because it looks nice as an ornament. I'm going to do it so it settles, and to do that you can also make it double. You can open the seam and top stitch on both sides of the seam, but I'm just going to make a simple one, and because I'm sewing with a pink thread, I'm going to top stitch on the blue side. And one thing I didn't realize when I started sewing was the needle I had on, and I should have changed it. I had a normal needle, a medium weight needle, and this fabric is a bit stretchy, so a stretch needle is better, a ballpoint one. So I changed it because it took some of the threads, and you can see it on one side, but anyways. Once I changed it, I didn't have any problem, so that's good. I was just having a look and I realized that the dress, because I didn't have much material, is not very flowy. So I don't want it, because it's not long, but it's midi, I don't want it to be too tight when walking. It's not tight, but I mean, it's not, you know what I mean. I'm going to open the last seam I did on the last panel. So the last panel is going to be open, and I was thinking that the top stitching I've been doing is going to be really good because I can hem that slit. So that's going to be amazing. Instead of top stitching on one side, I'm going to open the seam, the original seam, and top stitch on both sides, so that way that slit is already hemmed, so that's going to be good. And I'm going to hem the bottom of the dress with a normal hem because I don't have enough material to do all that bias tape thing the green dress had, so it's a pity, but we'll survive. I know I could use the seam ripper pushing forwards, but I'm too afraid of ripping the material. And to hem the bottom, I'm going to use some pins, especially because I want to make sure that both parts of the slits are at the same level, at the same height. And of course you can also baste it if you think you should do it, but I think with pins I'll be okay. And after finishing all the hemming, I'm going to start with the neckline. Of course you can do this the other way around, you can do the neckline first so you can try it on and then do the hemming, but I started with the top stitching and all the paneling I did, so I just finished the hem. So now I've changed my mind and I'm going to make some bias tape to finish the neckline. Why? Because I'm not sure about the elastic band. I want to put some elastic band at the back, of course, but I'm not sure if I sew it right at the edge of the dress, if then I can hem it, or if I hem it then that seam will rip once the elastic band stretches. I'm not sure, so I'm going to finish it with some bias tape. I just cut some strips of material that I'm going to sew together to make a longer strip, right sides together, but not sew it with a straight seam, but a diagonal one.
Because this is not right sides together.
I was saying not straight but diagonal, so when I open it, that seam isn't bulky because we're going to fold it and that seam will go crazy big inside. So let's do that. Bias tape done. It took me a while to figure out how to sew it together because you can't sew it straight like this, you have to sew it like that. So when you unfold it, it goes straight. So, but you can do it, it's manageable. So now I'm going to sew it right sides together to the dress. The first seam doesn't really matter, it's not difficult, it's not a problem. Then the second one I will pin and baste and then sew. And in between I will be adding the elastic band to the sides of the dress on the back before basting, so it stays in there. The elastic band is only sewn on the sides in the middle of the bias tape. So now when I fold it, it's inside, but I'm a bit nervous. I don't know if I'm doing this right. Sewing the bias tape with the elastic band inside was much easier than what I had imagined. I'm really pleased. And now I'm going to get rid of all this basting as well. And I'm going to do the halter neck. So for that I need a piece of material of 24 by 60 centimeters, but I don't have enough, so I'm going to do it in twos. I've had to sew a bit here, so I have the two sides of it, so I'm going to sew them together on 3 of them. I'm going to sew 3 sides. So then on the one I leave open, we can put the neckline in. And to make the little loop that holds the dress together, I cut a rectangle of material about 15 by 7 centimeters, sew it together and then hem the two sides. And now we put it in here,
Not that far down.
and it'll be ready. And this is the final result. Very discreet, you hadn't seen me there, had you? So let me know what you think. I don't know if you usually combine patterns like this. I think it turned out okay. It's a bit I didn't have more material because I would have liked it to be a bit more flowy, but it turned out okay. I managed to pattern match the skirt but not the waistline. It's a pity, but I didn't have enough material. And the rest is okay. The tie is a bit tight. I don't know why, because it was the measurement. Maybe the material is a bit more stiff, but the rest is okay. I'm really happy about how this turned out without the elastic on the front and how the elastic turned out here. And I'm quite glad I decided to leave the sides open with a slit, because I think it looks much flowier, it looks nicer. I think right now I should go on the internet and look for a venue to host a pool party, because it's what's screaming, isn't it? So let me know down in the comments what you thought, if you watch it with sunglasses or anything, any ideas, any thoughts you want to share. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel a lot, and that way you don't miss anything. Although I leave you 2 links here to 2 videos you might like. Bye.